Hi everyone, today we're going to study factoring, and we're going to factor a trinomial of this form: ax squared plus bx plus c. How do we factor a trinomial of this form? We are going to follow some steps. Step 1 is factor any greatest common factor, or GCF. Step 2, find the product AC. This AC means the A, the coefficient of x squared, and the C, the constant of the trinomial. Step 3, we're going to find two numbers m and n, such that if we multiply the m and n, this is equal to the AC. This AC coming from step 2. Also, if we add the m and n, we can see it is m plus n. It must be equal to the b. And this b is the coefficient of the x in the middle term of the trinomial. Step 4, split the middle term using m and n. It means to say the ax squared plus bx plus c will become like this: ax squared plus mx plus nx plus c. Step 5, we're going to factor by grouping. Let us have example 1. Let us factor out 10x squared minus 55x plus 70. Step 1 says, let us factor any greatest common factor. For this trinomial, we can see that there is a common factor of 5. So we can factor out that number 5. So what remains in the first term will be 2x squared. For the second term, now becomes negative 11x. And the third term, 70, will become 14. Step 2, let us find the product AC. After removing the greatest common factor, we have now our new trinomial here to be 2x squared minus 11x plus 14. Now taking the AC, it means the A, which is the coefficient of x squared, it is 2, and the C is the constant 14. Now multiplying the A and C, 2 times 14 equals 28. In step 3, we're going to find two numbers that when we multiply these two numbers m and n, it must be equal to 28. But if we add the m and n, it must be equal to the b. And this b is the coefficient of the middle term of the trinomial. After considering many pairs of factors, it was found that the negative 4 and the negative 7, if we multiply, will be equal to 28. Also, if we add the negative 4 and the negative 7, it is equal to negative 11. So the 28 here is the product AC, and the negative 11 is the B. So step 4, we're going to split the middle term using m and n. It means to say we're going to rewrite this trinomial but the middle term, we must split it using this m and n here. So as you see now, in this line, the 5 is copied. The 2x squared is copied down here. The negative 11x is now split into negative 4x and negative 7x. And then plus the constant 14. And in step 5, we're going to factor by grouping. So we have here 4 terms. We're going to group the first 2 and also the last 2. So the 2x squared minus 4x is now in one group. The negative 7x plus 14 is in another group. And using that factor by grouping, we are going to factor out a common factor or greatest common factor for these 2 terms. Also, we will do the same on the next group. So in here we can see that 2x is the GCF. So we put the 2x outside. What remains inside for this term will be x. And for the negative 4x, what remains is the negative 2. If we want to check if our factoring are correct, we can multiply 2x times x. We will get back the 2x squared, and then 2x times negative 2, we will get the negative 4x back. Now for the second group, we want this x to be positive, so we're going to factor out a negative 7. So when we factor out the negative 7, what remains here will be positive x. And for the positive 14, what remains is a negative 2. Again, just to check if these factors are correct, we can multiply and see if we can get the original binomial back. So the negative 7 times x is negative 7x, and negative 7 times the negative 2 is positive 14. So we are sure that these factors are correct. And now we have 2 big groups here, and we can see that there is a common factor for these 2 big groups, and that common is the binomial x minus 2. So we can factor that x minus 2 out. It will be like this. First, we copy the number 5. Now this common x minus 2 we'll put in here. And on the second factor, we will collect the remaining terms after removing the common factor. So 2x is copied here, and then the negative 7. So for our answer, the factors are 5 and x minus 2 and 2x minus 7. So this is our final answer. Let us have example 2. Factor out 6x squared plus 7x plus 2. Step 1 says, let us factor any GCF. But there is no GCF here. So we will proceed with step 2. We're going to find the product AC. The coefficient of x squared is the a, and that is 6. The constant 2, that is the c, we will multiply here. 6 times 2 equals 12. And then step 3, we're going to find 2 numbers, and these 2 numbers are factors of 12. And at the same time, if we add the 2 numbers, it must be equal to b. And that b is that number 7. After considering many pairs of factors, We found that 3 times 4 equals 12, and that is the AC. And 3 plus 4 equals 7, and that is the B. So now, we're going to split this middle term using the M and N. So the 3 and the 4 are our M and N respectively. So writing this again, 6x squared is here. Instead of writing 7x, we will now write 3x plus 4x, and then plus the constant 2. Step 5, we are now to factor by grouping. We're going to group the first two terms and then group the last two terms. We're going to factor out the GCF for these two terms. We can see that 3x is common. So what remains in the first term, 6x squared, is 2x, and then plus 1. We can check if our factors are correct. 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times 1 is positive 3x. For the second group, the common factor is 2. So we remove the number 2 outside. And what remains with the 4x is 2x. And then for the 2, it becomes 1. Again, let us check ourselves if the factors are correct. 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times 1 is positive 2. So we are sure that these factors are correct. Now, we have two big groups here, and there is a common in these two big groups, and the common is that binomial 2x plus 1. There is also 2x plus 1 here. So we're going to factor out the 2x plus 1. It is now in here. And for the second factor, it is simply the remaining terms for each of the big groups. So the 3x is copied here, and then plus the 2. So our factors, 2x plus 1 times the 3x plus 2. Example 3. Factor out 2m squared plus 11m plus 12. We multiply AC. A here is 2 and C is 12. So AC is 2 times 12, and the product is 24. Then we write all factor pairs of 24. That means we also consider the sign of the middle term. The middle term here is positive 11m. So because this is positive, we will only consider the positive factors of 24. So the factor pairs are 1 and 24, 2 by 12, 3 by 8, 4 by 6. Then we add these factor pairs respectively. So we have 25, 2 and 12 is 14, 3 by 8 is 11, 4 by 6 is 10. Next, then we look for the sum equal to B. B here means the coefficient of the middle term, which is positive 11, and it is here. Thus, the factor pair that we need is the 3 and 8. Now we're going to rewrite the trinomial, but split the middle term using the corresponding factor pair. So the 2m squared is here, the 11m becomes 3m plus 8m, and the plus 12 we copy down here. So from trinomial, it becomes polynomial. We will now solve this by factoring by grouping. We now group the first two terms, then we group the last two. And from here, we find the common factor for each of the group. In the first group, the common is m. So we factor it out. We have m times 2m plus 3. In the second group, the common is 4. So we have 4 times 2m plus 3. We have here now two big groups. The common is the binomial 2m plus 3. So we factor out the common 2m plus 3. We have now 2m plus 3 times this m here and then plus 4. This is now the final answer. Example 4. Factor out 3m squared plus 8m plus 4. Let's multiply AC. A is 3, C is 4. So AC is 3 times 4 and the product is 12. Let us write all factor pairs of 12. We consider the sign of the middle term. The middle term is positive 8m. Since this is positive, we will write only the factor pair of 12, all positive. So the factors are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Then we add these factor pairs respectively. So we have 1 and 12 is 13, 2 by 6 is 8, 3 plus 4 is 7. Next, we look for the sum equal to b. Our b here is the positive 8, the coefficient of the middle term, and it is here. Therefore, we need this factor pair 2 and 6. Then we rewrite this trinomial, but we split the middle term using the factor pair. So we have the 3m squared is here. Now the 8m becomes 2m plus 6m. Remember, we are using this factor pair. And then the plus 4 is here. Then we will solve this by factoring by grouping. We group the first two terms and the last two terms as one. Then we find the common factor for each of the group. So in the first group, common is m. So we have m times 3m plus 2. In the second group, common is the 2. So this is 2 times 3m plus 2. We have here now two big groups, and there's a common factor. That is the binomial 3m plus 2. We can factor it out. So we have 3m plus 2 times this m plus 2. This is now the final answer. Example 5. Factor out 3m squared minus 13m plus 4. Let us multiply AC. A is 3 and C is 4. So we have AC equals 3 times 4 equals 12. Then we write all factor pairs of AC. But we will consider the sign of the middle term. We have here negative 13m. Take note that this is negative. Therefore, the factor pairs of AC or this 12 must all be negative. So we have negative 1 by negative 12, negative 2 by negative 6, negative 3 by negative 4. Then we add these factor pairs respectively. So we have negative 13, negative 8, negative 7. Then we look for the sum equal to b. We said that this b is the coefficient of the middle term. The negative 13 is here. Therefore, we need this factor pair, the negative 1 and negative 12. We're going to rewrite now this trinomial, but split the middle term using this factor pair. So we have this 3m squared. This negative 13m becomes negative m minus 12m. And the plus 4 is here. Now, let us solve this by factoring. We're going to group the first two terms and another group for the last two. So the first two terms, we have this group. And for the second group, please be careful we're going to do like this. This negative 12m plus 4, when we put it inside the grouping symbol, the negative sign is outside. So the negative 12m becomes positive 12m. The positive 4 becomes negative 4. And from here, we factor out the common. In the first group, the common is m. So we have m times 3m minus 1. In the second group, the common is 4. So we factor it out. What remains is 3m minus 1. We have now these two groups, and the common is the binomial 3m minus 1. So we can factor it out. So we have 3m minus 1 times m, and then minus 4. This is now the final answer.